Ready. Hello, fellow writers. I'm Lewis. That over there is Tolkien, and you have found the Scriptarian Society.
Welcome, everybody.
Your door just opened.
That was my husband. You guys are watching on YouTube. My husband just walked by. Karissa says hello.
Hi, Karissa. Bye, Karissa.
There you go. Yes, that was beautiful, perfect timing. He has to go get a haircut because his hair is out of regulation. It's too long. Gotta go get it cut for the army.
Nice.
Yeah,
I see.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
yeah, so
I was not scripted. That scared me for a second. I was about to be like, Ash, there is someone in your house. And then I remembered you're married.
Yeah, sometimes there is someone here. Sometimes he's here. Yeah. Him and now the doggy dogs. But anyways, welcome to the Scriptarian Society.
Yes.
If you were looking for a podcast all about writing, you are in the right place.
I like that.
That over there is your host, Karissa Harlow, aka Lewis. I am your host, Ash O'Rourke, aka Tolkien, and I recently realized that my chair is really, really noisy. So if you hear like click, bang, thud, all this stuff, that's because every time I move, my chair makes a sound, and I don't notice it until I'm editing. So I apologize.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of these? It's an office chair, but it's actually a yoga ball, and it's for strengthening your core.
I think I have. I think you told me about it.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited because I remembered I have a Target gift card. So I ordered one with my Target gift card. So
nice.
We'll see if in the future, if that's, better than all this nonsense. But it's possible it might just be like the rubber ball sounds instead. So we'll see. But I'm aware of the problem in case anyone's like, does she know? I know. I'm very sorry.
I know. Whenever there's like something going wrong, I'm like, I just need everyone to know that I am aware that there is a problem. I can't fix it. I can't do anything, but I want you to know I know it's there.
I know. It's like, no, I know. I'm aware. I know you guys want to tell me, and you can if you want to, but it's important that you know that I know. See, I can
just
hear
clearing
it
the air
now. Yeah. Anyways, so how has your week been? Over a week because we recorded early last time.
Mm-hmm. My week has been good. So for the past couple of weeks, I'd been doing like rounds of interviews for a job, and it was like an assistant editor position, and I technically got the job, but I didn't accept because I would have had to move. So I mean sad. It was perfect otherwise,
but a very cool job. Yeah,
I know. I want to be the kind of person that could completely uproot my life and move by myself to a new state, but I don't think I am. And I like that I'm like that. So I'm just not going to push it. No. I'm not going to like make myself miserable for the sake of wanting to like brag about it or being able to say that I did something. No. That's not worth it. So
I think very few people are people who could uproot their lives to the point where they move somewhere like to a different state, a very long way away from anybody that they know, and be happy doing it. I don't think that that's most people. Like even if you knew a couple people in the state, that's different. Like there's literally nobody there. So that is a pretty big move, especially like unless they've always wanted to live there or something like that. But otherwise, that's kind of a big jump. I don't think I wouldn't do it. I don't think most people would do it.
I know. And I was thinking about it for like college, because like people do that for college, but typically you go home every once in a while for college. So it's like you're easing your way out of it. But because like my dad did that for college, and he was even telling me, he's like, I don't know that you would be happy doing that just because of like who you are as a person. And, you can't just like come home whenever you want if you're a state away.
No.
So we're several states away.
Yeah, college is definitely different because also with college, it's like a limited amount of time, and you can go home on breaks, like you said. And it's not like you're moving to where you go to college. You're just like going there on a short-term basis. So definitely different, but exciting that you got the job offer.
I know. I was like,
hell yeah, you are qualified.
I know. And they gave me like, I don't know, it was like 50 cents to $1 over their posted rate in the offer. And so I was like, okay, I'm feeling really good about myself.
That's amazing.
That's
so nice.
So I have hope for a future assistant editor job. I feel like I'm qualified now because like someone else told me I was qualified,
I just thought you were saying, now I have hope for a future. And I'm like, God, I hope so.
Like everything was riding on this. If they hadn't offered me the job, I would have been done.
That's funny. Well, I'm glad that gave you confidence because it should, because that was really impressive. And I know the company too, and I was very impressed. So that's really, really awesome. So I guess keep applying. If you wanted to apply for some jobs in Texas, it's not like there's no one here for you. Because like
I know people there.
You do, and I would love for you to be here.
As the crazy eyes come into your face.
Eyes. Exactly.
I would love for you to be here.
It'll be like college where I just try to drag you outside to do things with me, except that it's not going to be outside because I'm home. It's just going to be like dragging you inside to hang out with me, which is a little bit more both of
into different inside locales.
Yeah, exactly. Where we don't have to really speak to people. But if you needed to, I have some people who you can speak to. So it's not like going to
that is kind of like the perfect storm.
Yeah, it is.
Like if I want to talk to someone, they're there. But also if I'm just feeling introverted, they don't care if I'm not around.
This is what I'm saying. It is the perfect storm. I'm just saying, I think you should look for a job in Texas. So
maybe I will.
Maybe. So you don't tease me like that if you're not going to. Oh, man.
I do that a lot. People are like, you should move here. I'm like, maybe. And they're in like, Minnesota. And I'm like, I'm never moving to Minnesota. I don't actually know anyone in Minnesota. It's an example.
I feel like you would actually enjoy living in Texas.
It's very similar, like culturally and weather-wise to Arizona. I feel
that's
like
what I'm saying. Like a lot of it is very familiar, and you have people here. People meaning like me and my family, but we know you pretty damn well. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then this morning, for our first time to the vet with them. And that was fun. They were very well behaved. And I was like, why aren't you like this all the time? But they had to get shots and they were totally calm. And I was like, wow, I throw bigger fits. So
that's funny.
But they were good.
Both of my dogs went to the vet too, but not at the same time because we took a new boy in so he could get all of his shots and his like just little puppy wellness checkup. And now he has to go back in 3 weeks for all of his boosters. And then 3 weeks after that for, I think, another booster. And then at 6 months, he has to get neutered. Yeah, he got his rabies. Okay, he got and he has to go get his booster or whatever. And so then we were like, okay, cool. And at some point we're going to have to take Brownie in because we need to get her heartworm medicine. They have to prescribe it, but they won't unless they've already checked her out. And so you're like, okay, that's on the radar. In the next few months, we'll do that. And then I don't know what she did, but all of a sudden, like she was licking her paw and I look at her paw and the quick of her nail is completely exposed. And the nail is basically gone. It has since fallen off. But like the quick of her dew claw, it's really long. It's bright red. It's very like pulpy and fleshy looking and it looks disgusting, but it's like raw nerves. So you're like, oh my God, the amount of pain this poor dog is in. And we have no idea how she tore her claw off completely. So we were just like, and it was over the weekend when the vet's closed. So we wrapped it with antibiotics so she couldn't get to it. And then we took her to the vet and she was behind in some of her shots. So she got shots too. And now she has to go back in 3 weeks, but it's going to be different than when Winnie goes back because they went different weeks because we didn't know this was happening. And then the vet basically charged us a bunch of money to say, keep doing what you're doing for the paw. And I was like, great.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for this. Yeah, so we did that too, but apparently they both did really well at the vet also. And Javi was like, man, Winchester's such a ladies' man. They were all like, oh, he's so beautiful. And I was like, yes, I'm sure you loved that. And then apparently Brownie did really well too, which is good because I haven't really gotten to take her anywhere. So, but she's so pitiful with her little wrapped up paw. I have like a little rainbow bandage on it and she'll just sit there and she'll lift it up. When you walk by, she'll look at you and she'll just lift it up. And you're like, yeah, I know.
Like, look, I'm still injured.
Yeah, it's like, I know, baby.
Pity me.
Yeah, exactly. So poor thing. They're like, just don't let her run around outside. And I was like, yeah, like I can stop her. You've seen her like barrel out the door. Yeah. It's the only thing that makes her happy. So she's still been running around outside some, but because it's the dew claw, mercifully, it doesn't get as much pressure put on it. Like the last time she injured her paw, she's not been with us that long and she already had a paw injury because she like tore open the bottom of her foot. And so then we were wrapping the bottom of her foot with antibiotic cream. So this is also like we're kind of old hat at wrapping the paw. And that was much harder because the dew claw, you can kind of just like wrap her little ankle. And so it's pretty like straightforward, like wrap. Around the bottom of her foot was so difficult. I had to watch this video about like you loop the bandage up and then down and kind of around your finger. And it's just like this whole process. And then I was coating it in duct tape because she had to go outside and like run around on it. And so it was such a hassle. So I mean, I'll give her that. At least it's the dew claw. It's because I don't think it hurts as bad as if she had to walk on it, and she can still go outside some. But yeah, puppies, man. Good Lord. So much work.
Yeah. We brought them home and the vet's like, they'll probably be a little lethargic from like the vaccine. I'm like, okay. And so they slept for a long time, and I was like, wow, they really are. And they woke up and they went right back to like pouncing on each other and like biting each other and all this stuff. I'm like, gosh, you guys bounce back so fast.
So quickly. Winchester's hard to tell. He really sleeps most of the time. He's just so low key. And then Brownie, she's also pretty low key, but she slept after she got her shots too. They're just a lot of work. Did I tell you that we moved the baby chicks into their chicken coop?
No. Yay.
Yes,
You have new baby
chicken coop. Yeah, well, we've got the baby chicks and they were growing out of their brooder box. They were getting so big, so much faster than any chicks I've ever had before have grown. And then I was like, this feels cruel now for you guys to still be in this box. Because we had timed out that we were going to finish building the coop in like a few more weeks because they should have been fine. I don't know if it was the probiotics I put in their water or if they're just super chickens, but they got huge so fast. And we were like, you guys can't stay in the brooder box. So they were just like mad all the time because they were in this like little bitty box. It wasn't little bitty. It should have been fine for them for a few more weeks, but it was not. So Javi and I like rushed last week on top of, we were trying to throw like multiple surprise parties for my mom's birthday, and my sister and my brother came into town and we had to hide them. And we had to like, I mowed probably like a whole acre or more than an acre with just the push mower by myself. Like it was just a whirlwind of a week. And we were also like, and now we have to get the coop ready too. So we did. And now the chickens are so happy and so ugly. So ugly right now because they're not fully grown yet. So they're like missing half of their grown-up feathers. And we for sure have one rooster because he is so beefy. His head is huge. Like it's massive compared to the other chickens.
Like too big for his body.
Yeah, it's like too big for his body. I've never seen it before. And he's like, all of his like feathers are just like, he just looks extra gross. Like he's just extra like rough looking. And his chest is so big. And the way he like walks around and like looks at you is hilarious. He thinks he's hot shit. And this chicken is just so hideous. He's so ugly and he has such a bad attitude. So I'm like 99% sure that he's a rooster.
Well, that's cool. I mean, do you want a rooster? I assume that's a good thing.
We were like, a rooster is okay, but we got some farm talk for you guys. We got 3 leghorn hens, and we got chicks, but we knew that they were hens, and then or we hoped because they'd already been sexed. Same with the barred rocks. So the leghorns are the all white chickens. Barred rocks are like black and white speckled. And I think that they're smarter than other chickens. That's just from experience with them. And then we really wanted to get some Australorps and some Winadotes, but the only chicks that they had at the feed store had not been sexed. So basically it's just a free for all. You might get girls, you might get boys. So we've just been like fingers crossed, hoping that we get mostly girls because we want them for laying. Like we don't want a ton of roosters to get in the way of this.
Right.
And so far it looks like he's the only rooster, which is great.
Oh,
and Javi named him Don Alejandro. So that is his name. He's the only one I think that's named. Oh, we let our friend's kid name 2 of the chickens, and she named them both after herself. So
nice.
So 3 of the chickens have names, and then 7 of them are unnamed. Yeah.
Wait, is it like first and middle, or like they have the same name?
It's her name and then her nickname was, so she picked for both of them. So cool. They're very similar. I don't even remember. And of course, like, I don't really know which one she named. Like, I wasn't really paying attention. So we're just going to like point and be like, that's that one. Like, they're just barely getting to the point where you can kind of tell them apart. So yeah. Anyways, it's exciting, chickens. And so come August, hopefully somewhere around August, they should start laying eggs. Nice. And then they'll start free ranging. So they won't be locked in the coop all day. I mean, it's a really nice coop. Trust me, they are fine. It is like a mansion compared to their brooder box, but they'll be free ranging because it saves money on food and they're healthier and happier and the eggs are better and all the many reasons to let your chickens free range.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Anyways,
Yeah,
do you have
any
anything
else?
No, that's it. That's all I got. Do you have any book recs this week?
I do. I have one. So I read The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea, I think is the title, and it's by Axie O. And apparently she's been published before. I thought this was her debut book when I first bought it, but it is not. I think it's her third or fourth book. But it's like a retelling of this Korean fairy tale. And essentially like this girl that this little village town like sacrifices a girl to the sea every year when the storms come so that like the sea god will be happy, and it's like the sea god's wife, and like that's supposed to like mollify him. And so it's like this, I don't want to spoil too much, but she like takes the place of one of the girls that is supposed to be the sea god's bride. And so she's like in this really cool underwater underworld, and it was really good. I really liked it.
Wait, what was this called?
The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. I think so.
Oh my God, I want to read this book so bad.
And the cover is beautiful. It's like these kind of pale, like yellow, blue, pink colors, and it has like a girl, but not a cheesy girl. It's like a really pretty, like artistic rendering of a girl, and it's a really cool cover. So that's also a bonus.
So cool, and the book sounds so cool. Oh my God, I love it. I love it.
Yep. So I would definitely recommend. What about you?
Well, we read Twilight at That Pretentious Book Club. So if you like Twilight, my book rec for you is Twilight. If you don't like Twilight, no shame. I really genuinely don't care. So
yeah,
you could go read Fahrenheit 451. That's what we're reading next. Which is good. It's very short.
I love that one.
I know. It's the first dystopian I ever read. And it's like what started off my love of like dystopians. And it's very short, which is nice. And if you are all about like, if you identify as a reader, it is particularly disturbing because it's, all about like a world where like you burn books and stuff. So
yeah, it's like a dystopia for readers.
Yeah, it's specifically a dystopian, like targeted to terrify readers.
Yeah.
So it's good. And so I'm reading that again. But Twilight was good. Rereading it, I will say, like the quality is genuinely good. Like there's a reason so many people like the book. I think it's so much better than the movie too. This is like one of the rare instances where I was telling Kendall on the other pod that I wish I had read the books before the movies. I usually think the reverse because usually the books are so much better or so different that if you watch the movie first, you can enjoy the movie for what it is. And then you read the books and you go, oh my God, this is so much better. I felt like the book and the movie were similar enough in enough ways that I could have read the books first. And that maybe I would have enjoyed the movie even more because the movies are like a guilty pleasure kind of, but all the characters in the books are so much more vivid and like human. Both Edward and Bella are just way more like human and relatable in the book. So I genuinely enjoyed the book. And yeah, the movie just had it just took a very like specific take on the book. And I think it was very close to what was intended. And most movies aren't. So I'll give it that. But God, the juxtaposition between the two made me think, wow, this really is a good book. Like I see why it got popular. So it's good. Go check it out. Go read it if you guys haven't. It's long though. Like, man, I forgot how long that book is.
It is. Yeah. And I think Twilight is one of the books that suffered from like maybe being overrated a little bit. Like it is good, but is it as good as people were making it out to be? So I think people were like on the other end of the pendulum swing, like overly critical of it when it's like, it's a good book. It's not the best book in the world. It's not terrible. There's certainly better and worse, but it's an enjoyable read. So
yeah, this is what we discussed on That Pretentious Book Club. We were like, everybody took like really hardcore sides with this. Like just people got really divided over it. And like in reality, it's a really decent book. Some people are going to really like it. Some people might not like it as much, but like people just got overly critical of it because it got popular and people love to hate what's popular. And 13-year-old Ash loved to hate what was popular. So I was one of those people when I was 13. But in reality, like it's a good book. I gave it 4 pinkies up. I mean, I don't think I'd give it 5. I just think that there's like stuff where the craft is just significantly better. But 4 is still high because I enjoyed it because also it's, YA fantasy. Paranormal romance, whatever. But in the book, the focus is not even, yes, it's definitely on the paranormal romance, but it's not as angsty as it is in the movie. Like it's angsty, but the movie took the angst to a whole different level.
It did.
Yeah. And I enjoy the movie too. It's a guilty pleasure, but it's not for the quality that I enjoy that movie.
It's true.
I could say I enjoy the book because the quality was good too. So there's my kind of, I guess my book recs. It's once again, this is just me updating you on what I'm reading kind of corner. I never know what to recommend because sometimes I think I have very strange taste and I'm like, I'm not sure if my recommendations are valid. So I'm just going to tell you what I'm doing. You guys can sort it out from
can
there.
Run with that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, what is our word of the week?
Okay. Oeuvre.
Oeuvre.
Yeah, oeuvre. It's Oeuvre. And it is the works of a painter, composer, or author regarded collectively. It's like the oeuvre of Shakespeare or the oeuvre of C.S. Lewis, like
the
all
oeuvre
of their
of
stuff.
Karissa Harlow.
Yeah. Or like otherwise it could be like the oeuvre of Van Gogh, right? Because it's painters, composers, or authors. So any kind of body of work. So I think that's fun.
I think the oeuvre of Stephenie Meyer is relatively varied, yet with some common themes throughout.
Yes. What an intellectual statement.
Thank you. I weirdly have read, like, I never think of myself as a Stephenie Meyer fan, even though I totally enjoy her writing. But then I think back and I'm like, I read Twilight. I didn't read the whole series. I read the first one and half of the second one. I read The Host and I really liked The Host and I love the movie. And I read The Chemist, which nobody has read. But, and I just don't think it was nearly as good. I would give it probably like 2 pinkies up.
Okay. I haven't even heard of that. I didn't know.
It was a while ago. Is it Stephenie Meyer? That's what I'm like. How did I read that? I actually like have quite a bit of insight into the oeuvre of Stephenie Meyer, considering I don't really consider myself like a super fan. I don't know. I just like coincidentally read all of her stuff. I'm coincidentally familiar with her oeuvre. I don't like the way that sounds at all.
Well, now that you say it like that,
I really like it. It makes me think egg. Oeuvre.
It does, and it's kind of spelled like egg in French, so it's very similar. But
yeah, I think in Italian it's uovo or uova or something as egg. I could be mixing up. I could be mashing together multiple languages, but I think that's Italian. So
something like that.
Yeah.
I now have on my computer, after I discovered this word, it's called oeuvre, and it's like all the things I want to write in my lifetime. And it's a lot of stuff. And I mean, I actually have a decent portion of it written, but nothing published.
Wow.
So
I'm impressed.
Thank you.
I had a dream that I published my book last night.
Oh, cool.
I don't remember anything else about it, but I remember that I published it in my dream and I was like, hell yeah.
I mean, I love and hate dreams like that because they're so fun, but also you wake up and you're like, gosh, all of that effort and it's not real.
Seriously. Yeah. Yes, that's exactly true. Well, should we get into the theme for this episode?
Yeah, we're going to talk about pseudonyms / pen names. Yay.
Ooh. Yay. I love this. This is a fun topic. I think probably for all of us. Even if you don't use one, surely you've thought about what your pen name would be. And do I currently use one? I don't really feel like I do.
This is my question. So like, is using a form of your real name a pen name? Like, because you did. Yeah, you did Ash Lee.
Ash
which
Lee
is
O'Rourke. Yeah. Ash is my nickname. Lee is my middle name and O'Rourke is my last name. Right. So I don't think it is a pen name because I think it's like, you could look at it and be like, oh yeah, that's obviously her. Now, if it was a version of my name that I don't really use in real life, like it was some other like version of my name, like a different nickname or something, or if it was a little bit more different, or if it was just like A.L. O'Rourke or something like that, I think that could be considered like a pen name. Yeah. But I think that mine is too similar. I think using like my nickname that people already know me by, even throwing in my middle name, I just don't think it's different enough.
Yeah. So if like your name is Joseph Smith, but your pen name is Joe Smith, then it's not really like a pseudonym or anything. So then that's what I want to talk about first. What's the difference between a pen name and a pseudonym? Because I was always I looked it up, so I know the answer, but I was always under the
trick.
Always under the impression that it was significantly more than it is. But anyway, do you know off the top of your head?
No, and I feel like I'm going to be wrong, so you should just tell me.
So I think there are two ways to look at it. One is like the actual difference, and the other is kind of like the way I think we kind of use it in
denotation versus the connotation.
Yes, exactly. So the denotation or denotation, I don't know, you're concerning me that I've been that wrong my whole life now.
It's one of those things I think you pronounce like with such correctness, but probably both are fine to say.
Yeah, it's true.
You're like denotation, denotation. Sure.
Yeah. I'm going to go with denotation because that will just be consistent for my life. Yeah. So The denotation difference is that pseudonym is broad and pen name is specific. So a pseudonym can be like your stage name or like the name that you produce art or like your athlete name or something like that, whereas pen name is specific to author. So that's really the difference. So like if you look up pseudonym, there are a bunch of different types of pseudonyms depending on like the craft or arena you're in, you know?
Right.
So it's like the technical difference. Pseudonym is broad, pen name is small. And then what I think people typically tend to think is that pen name is the name that you write under, whether it's your real name or not, and pseudonym is a fake name.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
I would think so. Or that pseudonym is a name that you use to like conceal your true identity in a sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So like
that
a
you
pen name
specifically want to be anonymous.
Right. So like in that definition, the connotation definition, a pen name could be a pseudonym, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
But a pseudonym is always like a pen name in that example, I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
Or a
like
pen name is always
rectangle.
a pseudonym, but not every pseudonym is a pen name. Because like if an actor goes by a pseudonym, it's not a pen name.
Well, right. So, but like in like the specific definition of like pseudonym being fake versus a pen name. So like your pen name doesn't have to be fake. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But like, broadly.
Yeah, I went back to the denotation. Yes, for the connotation.
You could combine them. You could combine them into that. But so I really think generally they're mostly interchangeable. I think people basically know. I was always under some kind of impression that there was like a legitimate big difference. And I think it's because I always assumed that pen name was the name you write under and it's only a pseudonym if it's fake, which is technically true. It's only a pseudonym if it's fake. But I think a pen name can also refer to just the name that you publish
the name
under.
that you write under. Yeah. Because I mean, technically, I guess Ashley O'Rourke is my pen name because I mean, it's not my legal name and it's not even the name that I always go by. I definitely don't usually use my middle name. And I chose it even though, because I'm attached to my middle name because I like the way it's spelled. For some reason, something about the spelling is cathartic to me. But also if people read it like Ashley, like my name is Ashley, my name's not Ashley. Just for anyone who's been wondering, my first name is not Ashley. It might go by Ash, which is a shortened version of my first name, which is like 9 letters long and too long. My middle name, which I don't ever use. And then obviously my last name, my married name. So most people like have known me for my whole life. Also, it's not like they know me by that name either. So
would Ashley be a pseudonym if you used it? Not that you ever would.
If I use Ashley, like
that'd be a pseudonym.
As a single name. Yeah, that'd be a pseudonym because it's fake. As it is, Ashley O'Rourke is definitely my pen name because I don't use it. I don't use that. Like I would never sign my name somewhere like that. I would definitely never introduce myself with my like full, like my first, middle, and last name like that either. I think it's because when I originally published stuff, and please guys don't go look this up because it was garbage. They're gonna do it because I said it now. But I just originally when I self-published something when I was very young, I just used Ash and Lee, which felt more like a pseudonym.
Yeah, because it's not your last name. You're kind of using your middle name as a last name.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of felt like a little bit, I was going to say duplicitous. That's not true because that implies like bad intentions. And it really, truly wasn't. I don't know why I did that. I don't know. I was like 15 or 16 and I was like, yes, this is what I'm going to do. But I didn't want to completely like detach from that. Like if people wanted to discuss like my very early horrible career as a self-published writer, and let's not even call it a career because that is way too generous.
I'm gonna cancel that out.
I didn't want to completely detach from it though. So I kept it a little bit. That was why I finally decided to go with Ashley and then O'Rourke. Also because my alternative was to go with my first name and my last name and like my full first name. And I'm not going to try and listen to a bunch of people trying to pronounce it. So I already have to do that every now and then. And I'm like, oh, I don't like it. I don't like it. So
I don't want to bring that into my writing career.
I don't want to bring that here with me. So yeah. But I did briefly, I mean, this is slightly different. So I did have my stage name for a while because I was acting was and like commercials and stuff. Nobody get excited. And then I quit. So
to say your broad pseudonym.
my broader pseudonym or stage name under pseudonym was under the pseudonym category was Ashley Verdell or just Ash Verdell, I think. No. Hang on, Ash L. Verdell. So I always keep the first two because I do want to be able to like link things, but Verdell is my grandmother's maiden name. And before I got married, I had been planning to change my last name to Verdell. So yeah, anyways, now you guys have that personal information about me, but that was my stage name. And I felt like that was very much different because it was not legally correct. Nobody would know me by that. Like, unless you know me really, really well and my family really, really well, like you wouldn't know the name Verdell in my family either. So, yeah, but it's still good. You know what? That was a good name. I was torn between keeping that one too for my pen name. I was like, should I do it for my pen name? Nah.
Yeah. So I was thinking about, and like we can kind of branch off here about like why to use and then not use, but we can do the to use first. Why to use a pen name? And I was thinking that as if you're a woman or girl, I hate the word woman. I don't know why. If you're of the female persuasion.
I love the word woman.
No, I hate the word woman.
Oh, that's so funny.
Anyway.
Why?
I don't know. It just makes me feel like I have to be like 50 years or older to be called a woman. And I don't like it.
Nah, I am a woman.
Anyway.
And I am proud.
If you are a woman, you are probably going to have some marital status changes over the course of your life. And so going with like your technical legal name at any given moment can be kind of a challenge, because if you start out with your maiden name and then you get married, do you want to change it? If you start out when you're married and then you either get divorced or remarried or anything like that, do you want to have to change it then? So I just feel like it's like, for me, I plan regardless of whether or not I ever get married to just use my current name, like my maiden name.
I think that's what a lot of authors do.
Yeah. Because it's something that still feels like me. Right. It's still my name. It's something I've had for, minimum 26 years.
Yeah.
But it would also provide a certain degree of anonymity if I ever wanted it, if I was married.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think for women that can be is if you are married.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that for that, like for the first part of your reasoning, I think is why I kept my middle name Lee, because I never liked my last name to begin with.
Yeah.
So there was that. But I feel like with the name Lee, I feel like I'm a little bit covered because it links me between my status pre-married, during marriage, like on and on. I feel like I will always have that one, which is why I included it. And if I had liked my last name and I had not already been deciding to get rid of it, I had from a young age decided I was going to get rid of my last name. And then I probably would have kept that for the same reason. But I think that it is a good idea to use something in your pen name that you feel like that you're always going to have and you're always going to identify as, because life is definitely going to change, especially like Karissa said, like you could be married, then not married, married again, not married. You could just suddenly decide that you don't want your last name. You could change your name. You could decide you don't want to take your husband's name, whatever it is that you decide. I think my husband has a cool last name, which is why I took it. And which is why I was like, when I decided that I was going to keep that, I was like, okay, worst case scenario, right? My husband dies and I get remarried and I'm like, no, I'm going to keep my last name. I'm going to keep it because I really, really like it. But I also have the Lee in there, the Leigh, Lee, my middle name, that is, I feel like is me and has always been me and will always be me. So I feel like I have that kind of like, that's my like personal thing. But I've also decided before you hitch your wagon, your author wagon to a last name, to your pen name, you do want to make sure that regardless of what changes come in life, that is a name that you are going to feel comfortable sticking with. If you're ever going to be like, maybe I don't really want to be connected with that last name anymore, maybe just go first and middle. That's originally why I went first and middle. Or pick a different last name, pick something symbolic, or pick the last name of like a family member that you admire. That's what I did because of my grandma. So yeah. Anyways, I think that you need to think like really far ahead when you're thinking about pen name, what you want to do.
Definitely. Because you definitely don't want to try to switch like in the middle, even if you're like, I don't, like you're saying, like, I don't necessarily feel as proud of stuff from before. You still want it to be able to be linked to you in some way.
And this was also the only time in my career that I knew I could switch again. Like, because I was only like 15 or 16 and basically no one read my book. My thought process was, this is the last time that I can change it. Whatever I change it to this time is going to be it forever. Because if I get picked up by a literary agent and I get published that way, which is traditionally a little bit more successful, or if one of my self-published books from here on out gets really big, I can't change my name anymore. It's too established. At that point, I was like, okay, I'm still not established enough. I can still tweak it a little bit. So you also you have to think about that. Like if you have your debut novel, you find a literary agent, consider the fact that whatever name you publish under, you will probably be stuck with. You might have a little bit of wiggle room if you're self-publishing for the first time and you don't get really big. You might have a little bit of wiggle room, a little. Like I still tried to connect mine. You might have a little bit.
You still want to have some similarity to the name.
Yeah, exactly. But pretty much as soon as anything that you publish or that people read or any kind of notoriety for gets successful, gets seen, you're kind of tied to the name that people know you under. So
I was thinking about it too.
Serve your own platform, which is
exactly. You want to take everyone you can with you to your next project. So make it easy for them.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking about how I was published a couple times in the GCU Literary Review. Right. So I'm like, even if that's not going to become huge or anything, right? It's just for a college. But even at that level, like you still should think about your name, because it's you know that your name on that. It doesn't have to be your real name necessarily, but you want it to be connected to your later stuff. So like,
because it's going to be collected in your Oeuvre
one day.
Works.
Exactly. It's why I picked that word. Finally matched subject.
Nice.
Like one day, if someone is just like, carting around this random GCU literary review and my name is known at that point, they can point to that and be like, oh my gosh, this is that person that I know now. And so I think consistency is probably important, even on like small and large levels.
Yeah. So 100%.
Yep. But like in terms of a pen name, I guess like it always confuses me that people want pen names. I know that sounds weird considering we've been talking about it for a while at this point, because I always feel like if I'm going to publish something, I'm really proud of it and I want my name on it. But so I posted a TikTok and it was kind of on this theme. And I asked, why do you use a pen name if you use a pen name or plan to? And basically most people responded that they don't want their like everyday family and friends to know that they're publishing stuff. And that just confuses me. I get it on a certain anonymity level, right? But it also confuses me because if you're writing something, shouldn't you be proud of what you're writing and like want people to know about it?
It depends. I do get where people are coming from. And that's what I struggled with the last book I wrote, Space Alien Southerners and Saving the World. I am obviously Southern. I don't have a thick accent, but I am nevertheless from Texas. My family is from Texas. Some of them are very, very Southern. You can tell in the way that they speak. And so I drew on a lot of that like local color and a lot of the things that I think are just kind of funny, like the idiosyncrasies of like my Southern family. And I put them in there. And there was a time where I briefly was like, should I publish this at all? Or should I publish it under my own name? Because people are going to be able to read it. And I had to decide that if my family member wants to come to me and talk to me about it, I'm happy to discuss with them why I included the things that I did and that none of it's personal. But part of this is just, it's honestly like, you just have to be courageous a little bit. Like comedians do it all the time. You have to be willing to stand by what you said, and you have to be okay just knowing that some people are going to take it the wrong way. Like you can't please everyone, and it doesn't mean that you shouldn't create what you're creating. But I get like I've seen a lot of people who like write like really spicy stuff, be like, I don't want my family to read that. And I do kind of get that, because maybe you're writing something and it's really good and your audience loves it, but you're like, it's kind of like you don't want to talk to your family about
do
that.
I want my grandparents to know that this is what I'm doing?
No, because like you wouldn't want to talk about, like you probably don't even go into like a lot of detail about like your dates or your relationship. You definitely don't talk about like any steamy parts of your life with your family, most likely. Most of us don't. And so I do get in that case using a pseudonym, because you're like, I want to have a career in this, but I don't want to feel uncomfortable connecting with family and talking to family. And even if they know that I'm an author, maybe I don't want them to know that this is what I do specifically. And so I get it in that sense. I think another reason that a lot of people use a pseudonym or a pen name, I mean, the reason that I use a pen name and not just my actual name and always have, is because I didn't like my actual name. I had issues with my family and I didn't really want to be connected with that name. So I think a lot of people too, who have like issues like with the identity that comes with their name, probably think, well, this is my opportunity to change that in a really tangible way, because not everyone is going to actually change their name, or maybe they'll wait till they get married if they get married, or maybe not at all, but maybe they just don't really like the side of the family that name comes from, or whatever, and then maybe it's kind of a way you can escape that identity a little bit. So I think there's a lot of very different reasons for it. I think some are really practical on a like reality level, like on like a not having your family know that you write spicy fiction level. And then also on like a practical and emotional way where you're like, I'm getting the tangible distance that I wanted from that name.
So I think, and I think too, because Yeah, because men can have issues with their family too. And so if you are a man and you're like, gosh, I hate my last name because I hate that side of my family, you can use your mom's maiden name.
Yeah.
And it's, or something like that, some
Well,
kind
see,
of
and
other family
that's
name.
what I did. I had to like keep like looking basically because there's, every family's got their things. And I just basically had to like keep looking and looking through my family until I found a last name of a person in my family who I really respected and like had a lot of admiration for and would have liked to spend more time with. And I was like, this is the last name. Like if I had to pick a new name for myself from somewhere in my family line, I would pick this one. And that's why I did pick that one. And originally I picked that because of the identity thing. Whereas now I just use this name because it links stuff together. And I also really like my new last name. Like I got lucky and I married someone with a cool last name. If I married somebody without a cool last name, I probably would have kept Ashley Burdell, my stage name. So,
because one of the other reasons I was thinking for it is I was told when I was in middle school by a couple of my friends, I had a really cool name and that it sounded like an author name.
Your name does sound like an author name.
Yeah. And so I'm like, I've just worn that with pride. Like my dad has been like, maybe you should do like a play on your name. I'm like, no, I like my name. My name is an author name. But some people out there have very common names and you want your books to be marketable. And so if you have a name like John Smith, that's going to be really hard for readers to find. So you might want to come up with a pen name just for sheer marketability for people to be able to find you and distinguish you from other people with similar names. So I don't know how many people know this. I don't know if it's common knowledge. So J.K. Rowling is kind of like a pen name, right? So she doesn't actually have a middle name. She used her grandmother's name, I think. So her name is Joanne Rowling, but she did J.K. Rowling. And also Cassandra Clare, her real name is Judith Smith. And she changed it because those are really common names. I assume that's why she did it. And so now it's like, Cassandra Clare is like, everyone knows who she is, or at least
name. And it
most
sounds
people.
really pretty. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the alliteration and it's very marketable. Even if there are other Cassandras out there, Cassandra Clare is the YA fantasy person.
Yeah.
So just kind of, I would advise if you're wanting to be published, Google your name and see what pops up. And if like there is a strong contender for like top results, like if there's like 5 or 6 results or even more of that, that's probably normal. If there's like a famous person with a very similar name or someone local with the same name or something like that, you might want to consider using a pen name because that will differentiate you from all the other people with similar names. So
it's true.
It's also another thing I don't get because I really like my name and I think that it's unique enough that I don't think there are any other Karissa Harlows that are famous, let alone writers. So I feel confident in that. But but if you have a name that's very common and like, of course, that's totally out of your control. You could come up with something totally from scratch. I mean, Cassandra Clare, Clare is not her married name. It's, I don't know if it's a family name, but it's totally different.
Yeah. Or you could do initials. A lot of people do initials. I thought about doing initials too. So that's another way you can do it. But yeah, marketability is a really big thing. It's all about name recognition. Like if you are in marketing, everything is about brand recognition. When you are an author, your brand is your name. So if your name is not marketable, you're going to have a problem. So if your name is like too common, or even if it's too out there, like you might want to find some middle ground somewhere. You can definitely give it a shot either way. And a lot of that will depend on like if you have a literary agent or not and how adept they are at marketing and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, nothing hurts like in regard to trying to like give yourself like a marketing boost. That's never a bad thing. Don't change your name if you really don't feel like doing, like if you're really attached to your name. Like I don't think you should ever do anything like against your beliefs and what you like really feel about stuff like that, because writing is so personal. But if you can find a way to make your pen name or pseudonym or whatever personal and effective at marketing for marketing purposes, that's the sweet spot.
Yeah. So about agent thing, just in case this is not common knowledge, if you are querying, do not use your pseudonym, use your real name. They will ask for your pen name later.
Yes.
So your agent needs to know your real name, your legal name, because it is legal stuff they would be involved in, and you have to use your legal name for legal proceedings.
Yes.
So just
anyone is wondering, you can, and so when you submit your manuscript to, you typically have a cover page on there. And at the top left of your cover page, it has your full name, your address, all that good stuff. And then in the middle of that cover page on the first page, it has the title and then by, and then you can put your pen name there if you want. But always sign your query letter with your real name. You can put your real name. You need to put your real name at the top of your manuscript. The only place you can put your pen name in regard to the query process is in the middle of the first page of your manuscript, because it's your cover page, and you can put it right underneath the title of your book. But yeah.
And I don't think you have to have that decided once you have an agent. I think the publisher will ask you what name you want to be under. I assume this is the process, but so you don't have to have it, ready to go. You don't need to necessarily, I don't even know that you would need to push that. I think pen names are common enough that they probably ask you.
Yeah. I'm sure. And I'm sure your literary agent will have advice for you too. Like if they're like, this name is just really common, or I just don't think that this name's going to work, whether it's your real name or your pen name. It is your literary agent's job to tell you that kind of stuff. I'm pretty certain on that one. So hopefully your literary agent will discuss that with you and give you some options or help you work out other ideas if you don't have one yet, and you want one, or if your actual name is maybe not just the most beneficial for like PR purposes, whatever it is.
I mean, like if you're writing, children's books and there's someone with your name that's like in, I don't know, the thing coming to mind is porn.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
An adult film star, perhaps.
Yes.
Perhaps an adult film star has your name. Maybe
don't go with that.
You might want to change your name. Or like I've heard of authors doing this too, is if you write into vastly different genres and you don't want them to be associated with each other, because frankly, it might not be that beneficial. Like if you write like steamy romance fiction and you write children's books, your brand is really not going to help you. Like one brand for one book is really not going to help you with the other one. You really might want to publish that under two different pen names, because
and you don't want to get blamed for like
can offer each other.
You don't want to get blamed for dragging kids into stuff that they shouldn't be. So particularly, I mean, different genres is fine. If you're like, I write thrillers and romances, that's fine. But if you write like children's literature and then like,
or if
steamy
you write
adult
like,
romance.
if you write like grocery market, like fiction, like the, what are they, like cozy, if you write like cozy mysteries or cozy romances that are like short form you pick up at the grocery store, you might not want that to be associated with like with your big name YA fiction debut or whatever, your big publishing debut or whatever. You might not want those to be associated, because very, very different target audiences. So one platform doesn't really have all that much to offer the other platform. Doesn't mean that you can't publish in both, but you probably don't want to use the same pen name or pseudonym or whatever in both. So that's just something to think about. Or maybe you use your real name for one and not for the other. But definitely in situations like that, it's a good idea to create more of a divide.
Just to give an example of that, do you know who V.E. Schwab is? Or Victoria Schwab? So she publishes under both names. So Victoria Schwab is her YA name and V.E. Schwab is her adult name. I think E. Lockhart, who wrote We Were Liars, also does this. She has a different name for her YA versus her adults. And what was my other example? J.K. Rowling, right? So she has a second pen name. She's also Robert Galbraith. So first of all, on like the E. Lockhart v. Schwab, I don't know that YA and adult can't go together. I think YA audiences eventually read up to adult anyway.
So,
but there's a different branding there. And so I think they probably use different names for those genres because they want to write a lot in both genres, and they probably want it to be, kind of maybe a different career track for each one. And you don't want one to bleed into the other. But with J.K. Rowling, so she decided, I want to know if I'm actually good at this, or if people are only going to buy my stuff based on name recognition. And I actually really admire her that she decided to say, I don't want to use that. I don't want to use my name recognition. I want people to buy these books because they are interested in these books, which I think is great. And also they're a completely different genre than Harry Potter. I mean, they're mysteries. They're just like murder mysteries. And so I guess that's also something you could do if you ever became really famous. You probably wouldn't need our advice anymore, but if you ever became really famous, it could be beneficial if you feel confident in your writing skills. And you should, I think, if you're going to be successful and you're going to be a writer, you should feel confident in your own skills. You can, I think, change your name partway through to just, almost start fresh and say, I want to have to earn this again. I want to know that I'm not just writing my own coattails, but I'm actually earning it every book.
Absolutely.
So I mean,
you can get that successful, congratulations, and go for it. I would love to get successful enough that I need a second pen name, just like to distance myself from my own fame, like to see if I can succeed again. Because I'm having a hard enough time succeeding the first time.
Right. Exactly. I don't know if I could do it a second time, but I don't know. I still feel like you should have some commonality between the two. Obviously, Robert Galbraith / J.K. Rowling is a total outlier there, but to have some kind of connection between the two, because and this is, I guess, my major point. I think you should feel proud enough of things that you're publishing that you are willing to put your name on them. And I understand that there are certain genres that are kind of seen as like cheesy, like if you're writing paranormal romance, right? That's not the literary fiction of anyone's mind. But I don't think you should be embarrassed by the fact that you write or that you want to for a career. And certainly not if you are successful in making enough money to get by or supplement another income. I mean, I don't think you should be ashamed of that. So I get why people sometimes feel like they want to hide it, but I also think that you should be able to stand on it and feel proud enough of it that you don't need a pen name. But also I get pen names are fun. It's fun to kind of come up with them and think about, to have that anonymity. I mean, very few authors reach the level of fame that like people recognize them in public, mostly because most people just don't know what authors look like because they just have the picture on the back, they're not on screen or anything. But to recognize your name even, I don't know that most of us, even very successful authors, will ever get to the point where that would be a big problem. But I mean, I don't know. I don't want to use a pen name. I see why other people do, but I also don't, because I don't know. So I guess like the middle ground there is like coming up with a name that is yours, that you are going to use across the board. So that you can own everything that you do. I just feel like that's important. So it's kind of like a quality control thing. Like, so you don't end up publishing things on a whim, because then you can just say, oh, I'll just change my name and no one will ever know that was also me. I mean, you're going to make mistakes. Not every book you write is going to be, everyone's favorite and all of that. But I feel like you should be confident enough in your own ability that you can put your name to it. So that's just a note. If you can do that with a pen name, go for it. If you're using a pen name to hide, I don't know that bodes well. I guess that's what I'm saying.
I can't relate to using a pen name to hide, but also I don't write any kind of fiction that people really could have like a problem with. I mean, my alien stuff is pretty zany, but I don't know that anyone could have like a problem with it besides maybe my Southern family. But I do think that I highly doubt that for most people choosing a pen name is a thing because they're not proud of their own work. I think as writers, like if you're publishing it at all, just knowing that people are reading it, you have to have a certain amount of confidence in your work. I think there are people who have written amazing things and they don't have the confidence in themselves and in their work to publish it at all, much less even with a pen name. So I doubt that that's people's motivation. I do think what Karissa's saying is good, where you need to stand by what you've written if you're going to publish it. It's like anything that you're going to put out into the public, anything that you post on social media, whatever it is that you're going to say to the public, it should be well thought out and researched enough that you're confident standing by it. Even if you do need to come back later and say, with additional research, I've changed my mind or whatever, because everyone is, allowed to do that. But you do need to know that you stand by what you've said or what you've written enough that you are comfortable claiming it. I just don't think that most people are using pen names because they're not. I think mostly we either are doing it because it's fun, because we just don't really like our own name, because we like the idea of this kind of like alter ego author self. I think a lot of us, it's kind of that too.
That's fair.
So
I already have so many alter egos that I don't need another one.
Like, I don't need anymore. Now I would, I mean, part of me, sometimes I'm like, God, I should have picked a totally different name. I guess technically I still could, but because I'm still not that successful yet. However, I really like my aliens book. So I'm like,
you want that to be in your oeuvre.
I want the alien book to be in my oeuvre. However, I could always, if I find a literary agent and they're like, listen, your pen name is just not working out, I can always take down my book and then we can publish it again under the new name, since no one has read it yet. You guys, no one's read it yet. I'm just kidding.
I was gonna say, and then any of us that own like the original copy, it'll be worth like thousands and thousands of dollars.
It's true.
Original
you really have,
name.
You have flexibility to keep playing with it until you get successful, but you can't predict when that's going to happen. So any day now, I could suddenly no longer be able to change that. So I tried to pick one I'm comfortable with having forever, and I am, but I could have gone like some really fun ways with it. And sometimes I'm like, should I have just come up with something like crazy, off the wall, totally random? Sometimes I think about that. But I mean, but it's not about like not owning it at all. I mean, I definitely own it. And I think also I want to be able to like talk about it as myself, like on social media, or if I were like heaven forbid ever go on like an interview or something somewhere, like I want to be able to talk about it as myself. So I don't really, I just don't need one. Do I want one? Sometimes. I just don't really need one.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. I think another interesting point is like, how do you come up with your pen name? So like, if you're in a certain genre, are there certain names that will pull readers in as opposed to others? Like, I feel like if you're writing realistic fiction in any sense, like if it's historical or contemporary or literary fiction, I feel like very normal names really draw people into that.
I think so.
Like Nora Roberts is a very normal name.
It's
But
true.
like
I think
fantasy, I think that's
called?
different.
I agree. Fantasy is different. Cassandra Clare, alliteration. We love it. We love it.
Yeah.
Because it's Cassandra is kind of pretty and lyrical. And with the alliteration, it's extra lyrical. But I think like ML Rio, right? From If We Were Villains or whatever. I think using your initials, or even initials that aren't yours, but that you're using initials, I think is really good for like thrillers and adult fiction. I think it's definitely something that you just kind of expect from authors of the genre. So that can be a way if you're trying to like bridge genres, maybe that's what you pick your other pen name, or if that's your genre, that's the pen name that you pick is kind of like that. It's not like a rule of, but there are different names that kind of make sense for different genres, which is all kind of subjective too, but it is something to think about if you're trying to like invent a new name.
Yeah, like if you hear a name and you're like, that sounds like it should be a dystopian name, and then if you pick it up and you're like, this is historical fiction, that makes no sense. Like, you don't necessarily want you don't want anyone to have any reason to skip your book and go to the next one on the list. So trying to come up with, does this name fit my genre, kind of, who I am as a person, all of that. It sounds kind of complicated. I think most people probably kind of know where they want their pen name to go, but that's kind of stuff you have to consider is, does this match my genre? Is this too out there for a contemporary book? Is this too simple for a sci-fi? So I don't know, like Amy Kaufman is such a cool sci-fi name.
That is such a cool sci-fi name.
It feels like it fits for some reason. So
Jay Kristoff too. I feel like that fits. Do you guys know that Mark Twain's real name is Samuel Clemens?
Yeah.
We all know him for Mark Twain, which is very iconic. And I feel like Twain, which is a very good name for like a Southern classic author. I don't know if that's why he picked it at all. I should look into that. Why did he pick the name Mark Twain? But I think
sometimes it's almost like unconscious. You're like, this sounds right. I don't know why, but it sounds right.
Sounds right. Yeah. Which is something that I think authors are very familiar with, the idea of, it just sounds right. Like when you're like looking for the right word and you're like, why is it the right word? Because it sounds right. I think it just feels right. I think you'll get that. I don't know if you'll ever get that with your pen name though. Like with my pen name, I always think about it and I'm like, is it right? But I didn't like it before, and I really didn't like my stage name all that much. Like, I don't know, but another name that's not my name wouldn't feel right either. So I think I might just be way too close to the situation. So I've decided to step back and say that I like the individual parts of my name that I've chosen to keep, and I'm always going to like those. So this is as good as it's going to get.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I like my name. I think I would be, I hope to get married one day, but it would still be my name. Yeah. So like,
you have a really good author name.
I know my parents really, they predicted that well. Good for them.
They really did. My name was not a good author name. Weirdly, my original name was my original maiden name was like I think there's some like politician with this last name, and there's also a politician with my new last name, and I do not like that. I'm like, worst case scenario. But I do like that's everything the kind of stuff you have to think about. It's true, but I don't. I think that there's enough O'Rourke's. I don't think that it's that uncommon. I think I'll be fine. But I just like the name O'Rourke so much better. And also, I do write a lot of like Irish inspired fiction because my family is Irish, like not the family I know very well, unfortunately. Of course, the Italian family I know very well. I'm like, I want nothing to do with it.
Please leave me alone.
Yeah, unfortunately. But some of my family's Irish. And because I don't know anything about that side or not much about that side, that's the side I'm interested in. Javi's family's Irish. I also just am addicted to learning about Irish culture. I just think it's very fascinating. And so because
it's very fitting for you.
It is fitting. And I have red curly hair. And I do think that for all of my image, I think my public image, I think the things that I write and what inspires my writing, I think all of it is complemented by using O'Rourke as my last name. Yes. So I think there's that too. I think that it complements my image, whatever other feelings I have about the rest of my pen name. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. I think you want your pen name to complement your image, and that's really the best. You're never going to probably feel unless you're Karissa, you're never going to feel 100% about your name.
Maybe I'm a rarity. I don't know. I'm just like, I like my name and I'm really confident in my abilities. So
you are. Well, you're a black and white person. So I think you're like, I either totally like it or I don't. You're like, I'm 100% comfortable with my name. I think most of us, even our real names, were like, I don't know, is it the right name for me though? So Yeah.
Gosh, what is that like? I've always liked my name. I have a good name. My parents nailed it. Good for them. Thank you, parents.
I think my first name sounds better with my new last name. I think
like
my new last name, my full first name. I think it sounds more like it fits with my new last name. So yeah.
I think so your real first name is, I think it sounds like a fantasy author first name, but I know you have there's the pronunciation issue that like, are you going to have to deal with a bunch of people not knowing what to call you?
Yeah. I think when it's pronounced correctly, it sounds like a fantasy author. I think when it's pronounced the way that everybody pronounces it, the hundreds of ways that everybody pronounces it, that is not the actual way it's supposed to be pronounced. I think that sounds not good, like any kind of name that should exist. But if I could guarantee that people were going to pronounce it, and this is why I was torn, because of that exact thing. If I could guarantee that people would pronounce it correctly, I would have just done my actual first name, actual last name, and been like, bam, perfect. But I just don't think that people are going to actually pronounce it correctly.
It's true. Even like very simple names sometimes on books, I'm like, I feel like I'm still going to butcher this. I still don't know if I'm pronouncing this right. So
some people just go for it. Like Maggie Stiefvater. I'm like, Stiefvater? Really? You think we can do that? Steve? See,
that's what I've heard.
Was like, we're fine.
She's like, I'm gonna confuse people. It'll be my shtick, right?
It's my shtick. She's like, I'll let them work it out for themselves. And I just am not chill enough, I guess, to let people work it out for themselves. Because if someone was like, so is it this? Is it this how you pronounce it? I'm gonna be like, no. And how dare
I've had that question a million times in my life. Stop it.
It's true. So congratulations to Maggie's. How did you say it?
I think it's Steve Otter.
Steve Otter.
That's what I've heard.
It's German, right? I don't know.
Maybe?
It sounds like it's German. I have no idea.
It has that FV. And that's just not a combination I'm used to.
I have no idea. I don't know. Does anyone else know how to pronounce Maggie's Steve Otter?
Steve
the author of the Raven Cycle.
That person.
But we all recognize her name. So.
Yeah, difficult to pronounce names, I guess, can work. And especially when you're working with readers who are probably going to see the words as opposed to pronounce them out loud more often than not. So, I mean, it just depends.
Yeah.
But
just put thought into it. I think just know why. It doesn't, I don't think that there's really necessarily a good or bad reason for changing your name.
Yeah.
Except that if you don't feel like you would stand by what you've written, for your audience, because maybe you want to stand by your steamy romance for your audience, but you wouldn't want to stand by it with your family. And that's very different. I totally get that. But I would say as long as you would stand by what you've written, I don't think there's a bad reason to change your name. Just know why you're changing it. Is it because you want a better sound? You want a more marketable name? You just don't like your name? You really like your name? Like whatever it is, like just know why you've chosen it. And I think be open to feedback. Like if a literary agent were to say something like, hey, there's this other author whose name sounds a lot like yours, or hey, I think that you might need to use a different pen name if you want to work in this genre. Just be open to it, because it is just a very prevalent part of the industry is people have pen names and pseudonyms, and they have sometimes multiple ones, and there's all kinds of practical reasons and emotional reasons for that, and I think they're all perfectly valid. But just before you pick a name you're going to publish with, do think long term. Just think in the long term.
You can stick with it.
Yeah. Just make sure you pick something that you can stick with, even if things change, that you can stick with it. So,
I do have a backup pen name if I ever needed it, but I think it's more common than my actual name. So I don't think I would ever.
I want to know what it is.
I don't think it would improve. It's Catherine Hollow.
Ooh, that's good too.
Karissa Harlow, and because Catherine is my alter ego, and then I just think Hollow is cool. It's kind of similar to Harlow.
That's really good.
I feel like Catherine is a really common name, so I think that would be worse. I don't think that would be an improvement, but
I think lots of like twists on people's names is interesting. Some of my Southern family, when I was little, the ones who didn't know me very well, called me Ashley Lynn, and I actually think that Ashley Lynn is kind of cute. That's not my name, but they thought it was for some reason, and I think that's kind of cute. And I'm like, I could do something with Ashley Lynn.
Yeah, some kind of play on your name where it's similar enough where people might be like, hey, is this you? But it's technically not your name. I think that can be kind of fun.
I think that's fun. Overall, it's just a fun thing to do. So just be open. Just think about it. Just put thought into it. Just know why you're choosing it and be okay with what you've chosen before you publish. Because you never know.
Even small things, because you never know if it might blow up, or if maybe someone's going to go back to that one day and they can have that really fun moment of like, oh my gosh, this is my favorite author. They wrote this before they were big. I mean, I would love that from either end. I would love to be on either end of that scenario. So
it's true. I mean, but don't worry if you already have used a different name, like do not panic. Don't worry.
It's okay.
If you get big enough, guess what? It won't matter. They're going to know all your names. They're going to find all your names anyways.
Yeah. You can just make a list of your oeuvre and just have it on your website and be like, it's published under a different name, but it is me.
Yeah. And everyone will know. I mean, the fact that Mark Twain's real name is Samuel Clemens is not uncommon. Many people know that. So don't worry if you already have, it's not a big deal. And you might still be able to change it. And if not, you never know. People are going to find you anyways. Your dedicated fans will find you and they do not care. So don't worry about that at all.
Just make it as easy for them as you can, but no sweat. Yeah. Most big fans are going to be like, one extra step is not a big deal. So
no, they're like, I would follow 10 extra steps.
Yeah. Like I will like find you.
Stephanie Meyer fans and like they will find her.
Yeah. And then once you have a pen name, you can practice like your signature and you can just be like, nail that down. That's super fun. I practiced mine a lot. When I was 22, my signature was perfect. And then I over practiced. And now I'm like, gosh, this looks terrible now.
I practiced too much. Oh, that's so funny. I don't know if I've practiced. Whenever I sign things, I'm just like, I just want to be done signing things now. And so it's usually just like a scribble. I'm not sure that I've really practiced. Like I did doodle my name with my husband's when we were engaged a couple times. And I was like, my handwriting's really bad. That was about all I got.
I'm going to ignore this and pretend it never happened. Moving on.
Yep, exactly. Well, do we have anything else that we want to say about pseudonyms, pen names?
I don't think so. I think that was all my notes of things I wanted to talk about because I took notes for this one. So
sweet. I didn't. I was just like, you were like, I have plenty to say. And I was like, I bet you do. Let's do this.
It was because I texted Ash. I was like, hey, do you think we would have enough to say about an episode on pen names? And like 10 minutes later, I was like, never mind. I've already done the episode in my head. There's definitely enough.
I'm so glad because I probably would have been like, I don't know. I don't think so. And you were like, no, I do have things. And I was like,
I have so much to say.
I feel like that's a lot of our episodes because some stuff I just don't think about that deeply. And you're like, no, I've really put a lot of thought into this. And I'm like, I didn't know that there was that much thought to put into this. I feel so stupid sometimes compared to you.
There are just certain things like, I don't know. I feel like this is probably true for anyone in any arena, but like bookish things that I'm just like, I can go into so much detail about this. I feel so much about this and there's no reason to. Like I went off on a whole rant in my head the other day about why I don't like Hades Persephone retellings. And I'm just like, I could talk about this forever. And apparently pen names are another one. And I don't know. And then so on my Oeuvre list that I made, I'm like, one day I should just write a total compendium of world building skills. I just want to write a book, like writers like, make books. I'm like, world building. I want to do that. I'm like, I could go into detail about any things. So there are just things I think about a lot. I should, but not now.
But you could do that and you could publish it on Amazon or something and we can all benefit from it.
That's true. I just feel like because I'm so, I don't even know what the word is, perfectionist maybe, I'm like, it has to be complete. And of course, it would never be complete. There would always be something I was missing. But I'm like, I have to spend the next 50 years of my life doing this instead of the next, 15 months. So
you are definitely more of a Tolkien. I'm definitely more of a Lewis, and you're definitely more of a Tolkien.
Swapped.
I don't know why this happened.
It's crazy.
That is such a Tolkien energy. That's so funny.
I know. It's weird. Yeah. Anyway.
Anyways, on that note, how's writing been going?
I have an oeuvre. That's what I did. I wrote a list of all the things I want to write in my lifetime. So I have outlines for like 2 of the things on the list that I haven't written, but it's like Roman numerals. And then it's like, it's an outline. There are 14 items, but within the 14 items, there are like a series is an item. So like there are like 4 books in the series or whatever.
So you have planned out everything that you want to write until you die.
And this is the stupid thing about me. I'm like, I want to get to 17. So I'm at 14. So I'm like, okay, I have room for 3 more series in my life.
Just let it come to you. You don't have to plan it all right now.
I know. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, okay, Karissa, you need to leave room for different inspirations and different things. And then, other me is like, I know, but also I just want a list just in case. So
you're hilarious.
Your
Oeuvre is going to totally
That's
change.
What I did.
There's no way
it's totally going to change. I know this. it was just fun to write the list out and think about, because things that made it on the list are things I've been thinking about for a while and that I really feel like I could pull off. So just writing it all out and being like, yes, I should never be bored. I have so much to do. Which just, I don't know, it was kind of cathartic to be like, these are all the ideas I have. They're really viable stories. So, I mean, that was kind of fun.
Good. That sounds kind of fun to like, just be like, these are all my most viable ideas.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. So, maybe I should write down my potential oeuvre.
Yeah, it's fun. I don't know. Maybe that's one of those like writer's block things that you do. If you have writer's block to like still, I mean, it's not super productive, but just to like go through, these are all the ideas I know, like they're at the forefront of my brain that I want to do one day. Yeah. And just to write them all out.
It's motivating at least.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I did. What did you do?
Let's see. I edited a query for someone. Ooh. And that was fun because I actually really enjoy doing that. And I got to edit her first chapter and that was really fun. So I enjoy doing that as well. It had been a little while since I did editing and query and working on someone's query. So that was fun because I always like that. I'm so much better with other people's queries than mine because I am way too close to mine.
Exactly.
But someone else's I can look at and be like, oh yeah, let me change this. And I'll make it something that anyone would pick up off the shelf. For some reason, I don't have this talent with my own stuff. It's very, very frustrating. But then I did open one of my old queries to use as a sort of template for hers. And then I was like, you know what? This story is just really good that I wrote. Like, I just don't want to let it fall by the wayside. And this was, of all the stories I've written and queried, this one got a lot of really positive feedback. Like I got a lot of requests for like partial manuscripts, even full manuscripts. One person I really thought I was going to get an offer on. So I'm like, I don't want to just let this thing go. And now it's been to the point where I was obsessively trying to edit and re-edit it based on, like literary agents' feedback for like a year and a half. And then I was like, I just can't do this anymore. I'm just way too close to it. So I just let it go and thought that was going to be at the end of the project and I would never query it again. But then reading back through it, I was like, this is actually still really good. Like a lot of it, years later, I still think a lot of it's really good. So I was like, okay, no, this is not worth just letting go. There's something I can do with this here. Yeah. So I started like editing it again with the intent to re-query it. And now, because it's going to be changed significantly and it's been years, I can query it to the same people that I queried it to before. And who knows, maybe one of them will like it more the second time around after I've changed a lot of stuff in it.
And there are new people in the industry now. So maybe one of the newer people is your perfect match. So
yeah, exactly. You never know. But I had basically I decided like a couple of years ago that I was done with trying to query this idea. I was like, well, it's good. Maybe I'll publish it someday, but I'm not going to keep trying it right now because I don't want to like just spin my wheels. And I do think that there is some validity to that because if I hadn't given it a break for a couple of years, I wouldn't have stumbled upon it again and been like, actually, this is really well written. Like, actually, I think this is a really marketable concept.
Yes, I love stumbling upon stuff you've written before and you're just like, gosh, this is really good. It's so motivating. It's awesome. It is.
And I think I also, because I have this need to feel like I'm being practically effective. And so I want to focus on my new book because I think it's going to be so marketable and it's such a good idea. And I think it could be my like YA masterpiece. But there's so much pressure on it because of everything else. And so I think if I'm actively querying a book while I'm writing that one, I think it actually might kind of feel like not all of the pressure is on this one book because I already have a book that I'm querying that's actually published ready. Like I have other options. Exactly. So I think I'm actually going to, I feel like every episode lately I've been telling you guys like, actually I'm going to do this instead. But I do think I've like edited like a chapter and a half into it. And it's really by editing, I'm just reading through it again and just making some slight adjustments because it's already been edited so much. So I'm just making adjustments to make it better. Like I'm kind of changing one of the characters' like motivations, and that is changing everything. Suddenly I had this character who was really shallow and now he's really deep. So I'm just making like a couple like what seem like small changes, but kind of have a ripple effect throughout the rest of the story. And I think it's going to result in a much deeper story overall. And then as soon as it's done, I can query it. And I already have a query letter written. And while it is definitely not good, I can use that as like a baseline instead of trying to start from scratch because that's a lot more intimidating with query letters. And so I think I can get to the querying part of the process really quickly on this one comparatively. And then I can actually focus on writing the other one, but not feel like I'm wasting my time and not trying to get published or like there's all this pressure to like write it really, really quickly so that I have something to query. So
yeah, definitely. I will say how many times am I going to say this in my lifetime? I spent about 10 plus years working on like the same series, right? And I have it and I still really love it and I still really want it to be out there. But I will say that I wrote, the other book that I have already have written, and then I'm working on this new one, and just having other projects like to work on and to focus on and to go through all of those stages in again. I don't know. It just fills me with a lot of hope. I'm like, okay, so this series is great and I love it. And I think it's always going to be like the series of my heart because I grew up writing it. It's always going to be that for me, but it's okay if it's like the fifth thing I publish instead of the first thing, or, if it happens a few years from now instead of right now or anything like that. And so now that I have other projects that I'm really excited about, that I also feel like, wow, this would be a really strong, really good debut that are maybe stronger to query or easier to query in that sense. It just gives me a lot of hope. So like, I don't know, random piece of advice. If you really love the series or the book you're working on and you're like, this is my debut, it doesn't have to be your debut. You can work on other things. You don't have to, it doesn't have to go in the order that you write things. You don't have to publish them in that order.
No,
so
not at all.
in my perfectionist brain, that's what I was saying for 10 years. I'm like, this has to be the first thing I publish because it's the first thing I wrote. It doesn't have to be. So I don't know. It was very freeing to kind of get to a point where I wrote something totally new so that I didn't have all the pressure on this thing. It was also on this other thing.
It's nice.
It kind of split the pressure.
Yeah. It just redisperses all of the pressure. And that's really nice. So whenever you can do that, that's really why working on multiple projects is effective. It's not part of it's just to give your brain a break and to combat writer's block. Sometimes I sound really Southern when I'm trying really hard not
black.
to. Not writer's block. I sometimes wonder when I hear myself do that, I'm like, am I actually naturally, would I speak with a Southern accent, but I've just tried very hard because I have spoken.
You're just correcting all the time.
Am I just constantly correcting because my writer's brain and my speaker's brain, because I've always like been on stage and doing performance and stuff. Am I just like only learn to correct myself as like the split second before something comes out of my mouth? Like if I was completely no inhibitions, I wonder if I would have an accent.
You just stopped thinking about it. Would you speak with an accent? Yeah.
Maybe, because I got very, very hammered once and I had a very, very thick Southern accent, but it was like comical. So I was clearly in my very drunken state, thought it was funny. So I'm like, I don't know if you're being serious, drunken Ash.
It's never clear.
It's never clear. I don't really get drunk anymore. I mean, I obviously drink. I'm having a glass of wine, but I don't really get drunk anymore. Partly because of stuff like that. Like I don't like knowing I don't know what my intention was there.
Right. See, my brain just went to, you need to get grievously injured and lose a lot of blood. And then whatever you say will be natural because you won't be thinking about whether or not you're funny. You're going to be thinking about life and death. So that will naturally bring out your actual voice. That's where my brain went.
Because I'm thinking like when my asthma gets really bad and I've been like laying in bed, like barely able to like function because I'm like, I can't breathe. I have no oxygen. I do think my language gets a little bit more relaxed. I think my mouth just relaxes more. And I think that I probably do speak with I don't know about an accent, but I think a little bit more of a drawl. I try not to speak with a drawl on the podcasts and in professional conversations because I don't know why actually. Like I don't think it's
anything wrong with it.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I don't know why. I guess I just feel like I'm a more effective communicator without it, but I do think that at least naturally I do have a drawl. I don't know if I actually have an accent. I could just be lazy. I might just be a very lazy speaker naturally.
Yeah.
Anyways, that wasn't really related to anything, but I'm excited to get this one ready to query all over again. I've already sent out so many queries, but it's going to feel very different because of the changes I'm making. I feel like it was good before, but I feel like I can make it a lot deeper. And I kind of feel like maybe what it was missing before to get the agents to actually bite was depth. And so I feel like I finally like see the path to it. So anyways, I'm excited about that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. And it's like, you don't have to go through the pressure of writing a query letter from scratch, which is really nice.
It's so nice. Even if your old query letter is garbage, it doesn't matter. Like it's something to work from. That's why like the girl who I was doing a query letter, she was like, could you just write it for me? And I was like, yeah, but do you have like an old draft I can look at? And she's like, well, I do. And I was like, send it. Because I promise it's going to be 1,000 times harder for me to try and build you a query letter from scratch if I just have something to work from, because then I'll also know like what she thinks is the most important to tell literary agents and stuff. Yeah. So good stuff. Anyways, working on other people's query letters is really fun. If you guys want tips on your queries, happy to give it. If you want any kind of advice based on my own query letter, no, you don't. You actually don't want that. I promise. It's not
actually
as good.
No.
Actually no. But yeah. Anyways, I think that's everything I got.
Cool. That's all I have to.
Sweet. All right. Well, if you guys want to keep with us I can't speak.
Words.
If you guys want to keep up with us during the week, you sure can. You guys can follow us on social media. We're on Instagram and TikTok. We are the Scripturian Society. So Karissa posts like really fun, like funny stuff from the podcast, like a lot of like here are some writing tips from this week's episode kind of stuff. And it's really motivating to see during the week. It motivates me, and I am on the podcast and I listen to it, but somehow it's different when I'm seeing it in like bullet points on Instagram. So go follow the Scripturian Society there. It will be a weekly motivation, I promise you. Follow us on Scripturian Society on TikTok for like some really funny TikTok content for writers, some very funny writer talk content. Is it writer talk? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, that's what I think. Author talk is a thing, but I always tag it writer talk.
So. Oh, writer talk, author talk. If you want some funny author talk, writer talk content, check it out. Karissa has got it for you. If you guys want to support the pod, you can go to Story Siren Studio on Patreon and support us there. That's our production company. Or you can go to storysirenstudio.com. You can buy our merch. You can check out our episodes. You can read more about Karissa and I and how we got started in writing and how we met each other and how the podcast was born and all of that good stuff. It's all on storysirenstudio.com. If you guys have anything you want us to cover on our episodes, if there's any kind of topic you're like query letters specifically, or anything else about writing or publishing that you guys want to talk about or you want to hear us talk about, you guys can message us on social media, or you can email us at contact@storysirenstudio.com. We would love suggestions. We would love episode topic suggestions. So we are totally open to that. Send it our way. At the very least, we would love to talk about it with you, and we might even be able to do it for an episode. I forgot to mention on Patreon, Patreon is a free writers group basically for Story Siren Studio. So you guys can literally just go in there and comment. Like, you don't have to sign up to pay for anything. So if you guys just want to talk writing there too, we absolutely can. I think that's everything I've got for you guys. So
cool.
Until next week, keep writing.
And we'll see you on the next page.